Good day to you, good day to you. My name is Miss Edith Cumbo, and how do you do? I am a resident of Williamsburg. When I say a resident of Williamsburg, I live on the outskirts of town. And I am a laundress and seamstress, and that is just saying to you, well, if you do have dirty laundry, I'd love to get your business. No IOUs, just ready money. Please, because I consider myself to be one of the best laundresses about this here place. And if you do need some chickens, I can supply that too, because as you all probably know, we enslaved and free folks, we control most of the poultry market along with poor white folks. We control the poultry market. So this is my business, laundress and seamstressing, and I am one of the most best laundresses. I've worked for the likes of Mr. Randolph, the first family of Williamsburg, Mrs. Davenport. I do good work. So please, no IOU, just ready money, and everything will just be fine. I have to take care of myself, you see. And so within this here community, I do have folks around here because I don't know if you know, but we, 52% of us, black folks about this place, 722 whites, 702 black folks, 11 to 20 that are free, and I am included in that 11 to 20 that are free. Oh, yes, 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 yes. My father, you know, he served with Master Washington during the French and Indian War. Oh, and so when unfortunately my daddy paid his debt to nature, I inherit all 53 acres of land and 2 horses, and a servant too. I have 5 brothers, Solomon Cumbo, Samuel Cumbo, Thomas Cumbo, Peter Cumbo, and Stephen Cumbo, and several other cousins and all. And they are now serving with the Commander-in-Chief, General George Washington, and the Allied Forces. That's why most people say, well, you know, they're speckled unit. I don't like the term speckled. The only thing I know speckled is a Dominic chicken. I rather they call them brothers in arms. Because when you're in the battlefield, everybody in the battlefield, black and white, you're all brothers in arms. And so, yes, they're serving this country. This country, you know, where the war is being fought, what they say, upon liberty and equality. Oh, Lord of mercy. Liberty and equality. That's what the revolution is all about. You know, when they throw that tea in the harbor, that they call what? Boston Tea Party. That's how we have to go get our own army. And so that's how my brothers, they serving, and my dad is serving the French and Indian War, a war that is being fought upon liberty and equality, and we're still a nation of slaves. Ain't that something?
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Cumbo. A fascinating story. You said there are only about 10 or 11 freed people of color here in the city?
Yes, Mr. Joe. Yes, sir.
You are rather unique in this. Well, we have several folks joining us, already asking us some questions, and we thank them for that. We thank you, Aaron. We'll get to your question here shortly, and we welcome anybody else watching to ask any questions of Ms. Cumbo here. But to begin, I had a curiosity because we were just addressing the fact that you are one of the few freed people of color, freed blacks here in Williamsburg, which makes me wonder, how would anybody know, anyone who's walking down the Duke of Gloucester Street here in Williamsburg, how would they know that you are free?
Well, folks within the city would have known, and the city is a mile long and half a mile wide, and everybody knows everybody. But if you're new to the city, if you're a guest coming, walking along the Duke of Gloucester Street, our main road within the city, it's hard for you to know.
It's hard to know, but...
Oh, yes.
What What if you, say, went to Richmond?
Oh, Richmond, that's the farthest, 50 miles away. Oh, that's a risk. Going to Richmond, that's about it. Because all my friends that live elsewhere, they could steal me and turn me into a slave. I know of folks that run away and they're they're in the dismal swamp as we speak. And I hope you keep a quiet tongue in your head. Don't say all you see or tell all you know.
Absolutely.
Because reason why they run away is because of bad treatment or to visit loved ones. And some would return depending on the master they have. But nobody would know that I'm free unless I tell them. But would you like to know how I become free, sir?
Oh, yes, please, tell us.
Oh, well, I become free by the birth, because my mother is white and came as an indented servant. And so my mother met my father, and so they have me and my 5 brothers. And so my mother is white, my father is black, and that's how they come up with this business, this term called mulatto. You're part white and you're part black. So you can be freed also under meritorious deeds. If you do some hacks that no doctor could find a cure for, you find a cure for some medicine, like that fella Pawpaw. He got his freedom right here at the Capitol, sir. Right over yonder, 1729, Lieutenant Governor Gooch gave him his freedom because he found the cure for the rattlesnake sting and other maladies. He got his freedom in the governor's council chamber. You could also get your freedom if you were to report a slave insurrection, but you have to report it before it occurs. You got to think about that. Also, Mr. Isaac, you remember Isaac, Mr. Hubbard, the attorney, his house caught fire. And he freed Mr. Hubbard from the burning building. Oh, that's a right good hack to get your freedom. But he didn't get his freedom, sir, depending on the master. You tell that Mr. Hubbard said it looked suspicious, so he couldn't get his freedom. So these are some of the ways you can get your freedom.
So it's only through birth and through this meritorious service.
Yes, sir.
It's the only way to get your freedom. Well, you and I could keep talking, but we have several questions here already. The very first one, you kind of already addressed this, so this might be an easy answer. Aaron was asking, how many brothers and sisters do you have in your family? I know you mentioned brothers, but were you the only daughter? Were you the only sister?
I am the only daughter of my father and my mother, and my brothers, Solomon, they're like the 5 apostles, Solomon, Samuel, Thomas, Peter, and Stephen. And although they're free, they're serving with our Commander-in-Chief, General George Washington, and the Allied forces. And quite naturally, I have a son, sir.
Oh, a son, wonderful.
Yes, he's also serving.
Oh, goodness, I'm sure we'll have some questions about that, but I'm going to keep moving down because Ryan, I think, has asked a very poignant question. He is wondering, because you are free, how are you treated by the other people of color, especially those who continue to be enslaved?
Well, thank you for your question, Brian. Some, they're right envious. They believe that because I have my land and my 2 transportation and I have a servant, they believe that I'm getting much better than they are. But you know what, Brian? They have a master to take care of them, food, clothing, shelter. Because only a silly man would have a carriage and do not grease the wheels. I have to take care of me and mine. And I have to fend for myself. So it's not as easy because I'm limited.
You're limited even though you're still free.
Even though I'm still free. So sometimes I feel as if though I'm neither fish nor fowl. Like I'm a slave without a master.
Interesting. And so that begs the question then, like, how would the courts treat you? Are you treated more as the fact that you're freed, or does the court treat you more that you are a black person in the society?
Well, I would say probably because of the service of my brothers and my daddy and everybody, including Master Washington, his wife, and everybody know the Cumbo family. Maybe the court may look down upon me, and that's what I'm just thinking. So, not necessarily true, because I've been over to the court there with my son taken to court, and this is not a bad word, it's a legal term, because when you're not married, it's called bastardy. But lucky for me, my child was fathered by a member of the court, and the child come with the same eyes like his father, piercing blue eyes, and the father of a mole, and my son come with the mole, and so they says, Edith Cumbo, you are hereby dismissed for reasons appearing to this court. And so I didn't get in trouble for having that child out of wedlock. And I myself took Adam White, and he's a white man, you know Adam. He just, when he drinks and carry on and get indulged in his spirit, he acts silly. And so I had the occasion to take him to court and charge him with assault, battery, and trespassing. Well, lucky for me, the court ruled in my favor, sir. Court ruled in my favor, but I was taken up to the church, and I didn't fear as well, because you know the church and the state is one and the same thing. And so I hadn't been to church over 4 weeks, and so I was charged for non-attendance and had to pay 5 shillings, which is a lot of money, sir. Quarter of a pound, 5 shillings.
Goodness, well, you seem to be right on time. Doug had just asked for you to discuss the case that you had with Mr. White, so you were a little bit ahead of him on that one. Perfect.
Oh, yes, sir. Drunkard, and everybody know that he's a drunkard. And then he molested me, sir, by putting his hand on my shoulder. And I charge him for that. You don't touch me. Assault.
Now, I'm going to go here to Tina's question, who asks, do you own slaves?
Oh, no. I just have a servant. And when his time is up, and sometimes I can hardly get work out of him. Well, so it's the weather, you know, the weather. They can't tolerate the weather like how, as a matter of fact, that's how folks go to Africa to get these black folks, because Africa is very near to the equator. And this fellow was an indentured servant, comes from Ireland. And so when the weather, you can't get much work out of him, and so, but he's just a servant, and we get along like brothers and sisters. So you have to tolerate one another, yes.
Wonderful. Pamela was asking if you could tell us more of why your brothers are serving in the army, especially with the irony of fighting for freedom. While she said enslaved, of course they're free, but again, as you stated earlier, slavery is all over.
Oh, yes, we're a land of slaves, but this is their country, sir, and that's what they choose to do. This is their country. It's not who you say I am, it's what I know I am. So this is their country, and they're fighting and serving their country, because you know that the British Army and Navy was the strongest in the world. So when Lord Dunmore dissolved the Burgess and started to call Negroes, we have to form our own army. And so they decided to serve just like how my daddy served from the French and Indian War. This is their country, and they have a right to serve their country.
Wonderful. It seems that discussion of courts and the like have caused a few questions. So there are 2 here I'm going to ask back to back, but I imagine they will relate to one another. Deanna wants to know what rights you had as a free black against other white men, and Esther wants to know, can you own property and maintain it self? Wendy has asked a similar question as to whether or not you own your own home.
Oh, yes. On my 53 acres of land, I have a 2-bedroom log cabin, and I own my own home. I work when I want, I play when I like, I'm only building to God and nobody else. And yes, the rights is limited because I am black, and most of these laws that apply to blacks, it did not say free or enslaved, it said Negro. So by your skin color, I'm a Negro, and most of these laws applied. I cannot raise my hands to testify against a Christian. You have to get permission to do that. And that's how I was able to do that with Adam White. If I need to free somebody, like how Matthew Ashby freed his wife that was in bondage, you have to have a white patron to speak upon his behalf. So freedom is not how most people look upon freedom when you're black. That's how I say sometimes I feel like I'm a slave without masters, because most of these laws that apply to the enslaved also apply to me.
That must be frustrating. I can only imagine.
Yes, sir. To be limited. I'm limited. It's like they give you a little and they take it back. If they perceive that I break the law, then I could lose my freedom. So I always have to be on my P and my Qs.
Thank you. So we have some questions here that are headed in a slightly different direction. The first one wants to know, Tina wants to know, do you attend Preacher Gowan Pamphlet's church?
Oh, Lord, yes, I do. I rather attend Preacher Gowan's service. I do have a little problem with it because, Lord of mercy, he carry on forever. But I rather go to his church because most of these black folks, they do more better with the Baptist church, because the Baptist church is not as structured as the state church. You know, when you go to the state church, you're too structured. Praise God from. But when you go to the Baptist church, praise God from, you can express yourself. When the Spirit take over your body, you got to heed the call and express yourself. And so I like to go to the Baptist church, and that's why most black folks tend to go more to the Baptist church, because it's not as structured. And the parish church, oh, for God's sake, the church is used to control you. You go into church service, you have a burden. The best place you go is to get a little religion. When you go, you have to know where to sit. You have to, as a free Negro, I got to sit at the back. You as a middling sort, in the middle, you have to be in the middle. And then, the gentry folks, they sit in front to listen to Reverend Broughton. Obey your masters while you are on earth. When you get to heaven, you will obtain the earthly reward. Do you know how many black folks I know that have lived, have died, and have been to heaven? Not one come back to say if they get the earthly reward. So I rather get, these folks rather get their reward right here while they are on earth. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt be faithful servants to thy master. Have you ever heard about a slave stealing, sir? Because the law defines a slave as property. One that has got no legal rights and have no control over their lives. Have you ever seen a horse stealing, sir? How can a slave steal? See, sir, the way I see it, if you take the master's bread or the master ham and put it into something else that belonged to master, it's called rearranging. That ain't stealing, because you're property. So I see it.
Thank you so much. Now, here's a question that I'm certain that you'll be happy to speak with. Lisa wants to know about your children. She was asking how many children you have.
Oh, just one. I'm not like most of these Virginians. Lord of mercy, 17 and 16 and 22. Oh, no, I just have one. Yes, I'm not a good breeder. Just one.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about him?
Oh, Daniel?
Yes.
Oh, Daniel, well, again, he's fathered by a member of the court. So when they took me to court and charged me with bastardy, his dad was right there in the court with the same piercing blue eyes. He's one of them. They all politic. And so that's how they say, well, you're hereby dismissed with reason appearing to this court. So my son, when this war began, which is the revolution that is being fought upon liberty and equality, he tells me that he wants to go serve much like his uncles and like his grandfather. And I said, no, you are the only child I have and God. I don't want to lose you. He insists. And that's when he told me about the first article in the new government, that we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they're endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I said, boy, put your rump right here. Let me school you. Let me tell you something. Mr. Richard Henry Lee, he says, he's one that helped to pen the Declaration. His contribution to the Declaration, he says, government should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, it evinces a design to reduce us under despotism. He says it is our right, meaning we the people's right. It is our duty, meaning we the people's duty, to throw off such government and institute a new government. That's what he says. You can go get a copy of that there declaration. It's right here in Williamsburg. You go inquire and get a copy. That's what he says. But where is Mr. Richard Henry Lee that is telling us we need to go do that? Can you imagine if all of us were to go and to take out the government from right over here, the capital, 3 branches of government? Can you imagine what that would bring, sir? Because he did say government should not be changed for light and transient causes. So if we go get rid of the government, that's high treason. And what is the penalty for high treason? And so, sir, we just have to know how to think, and not everything that these men that politics say to us, we have to listen to. Take it with a grain of salt. Pick sense out of nonsense. Because when Mr. Richard Henry Lee is saying that in the Declaration for everybody to read and say, if we go follow what he's not getting in trouble. Mr. Richard Henry Lee, as we speak, is at his sister's house. Throw the government. That's a rebellion. That's insurrection.
So speaking of your son, Brian wants to know, does your land and property pass down to him, to your child?
Well, unfortunately, sir, my son passed on not too long ago, sir.
Oh, I'm
yes,
so sorry.
he was stationed at Valley Forge along with his other uncle, and he didn't survive, sir. He passed on.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yes, he passes on. So hopefully the other brothers can, share up the property and all. They all are quarters and they're doing very well, but I'll pass it on to my other kinfolk. But my son, hard here as it is, the only son I got, he paid the ultimate price. But you know what? If I have to do it again, I'd say, son, that's your choice. Go serve your country.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and we're sorry to hear that.
Yes, sir.
I'm afraid we only have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions, but we still have them coming in. Amy wants to know what kind of education you had growing up, and I'm going to add, you said you were a laundress, yes?
A laundress
yes.
And seamstress. It goes together. Some things you have to sew before you place it in the wash.
So can you tell us your education and how you learned to become a laundress? / seamstress?
Well, that most often the skill is passed down from mother to daughter. You know, when you reach a certain age, it's called becoming of age. And so you have to be prepared, both the black family and the white family. You have to prepare and know how to run a household. So my mother passed on this laundry skill to me. And with a father, if he's a carpenter or other trades, because any trade you can think about, it's happening around here within this city of Williamsburg. And so that trade is passed down from father to son. It's called survival. And so it was passed on to me. And reading, there's no laws prohibiting us from knowing how to read and write. As a matter of fact, I was taught to read from an old Negro man from Hanover County. He was passing through and he helps. And most often we're taught from the good book. That's how we're taught to read, from the good book. So, and there's no laws. Some of these folks, they're in the shops here in Williamsburg. They have to know how to read measurements. You have to know big gill, half a gill, a pint, a quart. You have to know, like, it's like the hogshead, 144 pounds to fill it up, a hogshead of tobacco. You have to know all these things. So you have to have all these skills. And then we have a school. It's the Negro School. It's formed by Dr. Bray and his associates or missionaries from London. Mr. Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, is one of the patrons, and Mr. Robert Carter Nicholas here of Williamsburg. Miss Wages, she's about the place, can speak to anyone about the Negro School and the Bray School. So there's no laws prohibiting folks from knowing how to read and write. But I believe the school, though, the Negro School, it's better. You know, the ages 6 to 10, catechism, you know, Bible teaching, a little bit of reading and writing. I think they send them there to learn how to better serve their master, but that's my thoughts. Miss Wages, she get whole 20 pounds. 20 pounds she get. That's a lot of money. Yes.
Yes, I heard that since her passing that the school has been closed down. I'm certain with the war going on, there's going to be little in the way to support that. We have another question here of, as a child, how were you and your family, both Amy and Esther asked a similar question of how your family was treated since they were mixed race in a society dominated by white?
Well, you know, how folks, as time progresses on, how folks look at folks now in 1777, 76, and so, you know, it's not, there's always racism and prejudice, but not the way some people look at it. Because when folks come from all these diverse places, when I say diverse places, the first arrival of the Negroes is 1619 when they arrived. And so when they arrive at Point Comfort, it's just a few of them. There's no slavery system here. And so when you have these indentured servants that came before blacks, you can't get much work out of them because of the heat and the weather and what it's like. And so that's how you have to go back to Africa to get what they call them black gold, because Africa is very near to the equator and they can survive the warm temperature. So when you see folks walking along the Duke of Gloucester Street, 1 in every 5, they look white, but they're not necessarily white. They're called mulatto because one appearance is black and one appearance is white, because there's a shortage of women. When the colonists came, they planted a cross that represents the King's Church. They give Thanksgiving at Berkeley Plantation, and they didn't have one near woman with them. They didn't come with women. They have to send back to get a boatload of marriageable maidens so that the colonists could have wives. So folks work side by side, and you form relationship, and from those relationships come children. It is not the condition you lived and worked under that make you a slave. What make you a slave? The law. 1670. All servants coming over from a non-Christian country by boat or by land shall be slaves. Africa is not a country, it's a continent, but you know how these men that politic, how they put things together. And in the Empire of Mali, you have 2 universities. The largest is the University of Timbuktu. That university specializes in laws and religion. And so with these folks coming over, they come empty-handed, without positions. But what they have here, no one could take away from them.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here, Ms. Cumbo. We have enjoyed talking to you, but I'm afraid we have come to the end of our time. I have one last question for you,
yes.
And it is looking into the future. What is your hope? What are your dreams for the next generation and the future to come?
Well, my hope for the next generation is that we would get along more better than what I'm seeing here now. I believe in God, and without God, I wouldn't be sitting around here or standing here. And I remember that Moses, the Lord helped Moses across the Red Sea. The walls of Jericho fell because of prayer. David slay Goliath. And prayer is powerful. I believe that we need to have a conversation, speak to one another, agree to disagree, respect one another, and become a part of this solution. And then we would be a better nation. That's my hope.
We thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir. Much obliged. Well, and I do wish that my folks here that have been answering your questions and others, that you will enjoy your stay here in Ophir City. And for those that haven't been here, please do visit with us. Those on your way home, we trust you do not encounter robbers or potholes along the way, as those have been plagued to society. And may God be with each and every one of you. Good day to you.
This program has been made possible by a generous grant from Ferguson Enterprises.